You are about to hear something almost nobody will tell you, something so powerful that if you apply it, it will completely change the way people, especially younger women, see you. Most men spend their entire lives trying to impress, trying to be noticed, trying to prove their worth through status, looks, or money. And yet, despite all their efforts, they fail to attract the right kind of attention. Why? Because attraction isn't about trying, it isn't about showing off, it isn't about performing for anyone's approval. The truth is far deeper, far more shocking than anything you've been taught. Right now, women are unconsciously reading your energy before you even speak, before you even act. They feel your presence. They sense your need, your anxiety, your hunger for approval, and it pushes them away without you ever knowing why. But here's the part almost no man realizes: the men who draw women in effortlessly, the ones who create curiosity, attraction, and even fascination without trying, are not doing anything special on the outside. They have done something much more powerful inside. They have mastered themselves. They carry a calm energy, a quiet confidence, a sense of completeness that cannot be faked. They radiate presence without performing, stability without stiffness, freedom without detachment. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how this works, how energy, emotional stability, internal completeness, and self-possession combine to make women feel drawn in effortlessly. You will see why trying harder is the exact thing holding you back, and why the moment you stop seeking approval, the world begins to respond to you in ways you never imagined. Stay until the very end, because the moment you understand this, your presence, your interactions, and the way women notice you will never be the same again. Let's start with something that most people don't realize: attraction isn't about age. It isn't about looks, status, money, or even charm. Those are all superficial markers, tools people often think will make them desirable, but they are not the core of what draws someone in. If it were that simple, every rich, confident, and handsome man would have effortless attraction. We know that isn't true. There is a layer beneath all of that, something that transcends the surface. And it's exactly what younger women, without even consciously understanding it, respond to. What they feel is the energy a man carries, his presence, his groundedness, his self-possession. That is what pulls people toward him, almost magnetically. Think about this for a moment. How often do you see a man walk into a room and immediately command attention? Not by speaking louder, not by trying harder, not by performing, but simply by the way he carries himself. There's a subtle power in that kind of presence. Younger women notice it instantly. They sense it before a single word is exchanged. This presence signals something very important: that the man is complete in himself, that he does not require validation, that he is comfortable in his own skin. And when a man reaches that level, something remarkable happens. He becomes attractive effortlessly, not because of any technique or trick, but because of the energy he exudes naturally. Most men, however, misunderstand what attraction truly is. They believe they need to perform, to impress, to prove their worth in order to be desired. They constantly chase validation, seeking approval from the world and from women. They overcompensate with words, gestures, and appearances. And younger women can feel it. Even if it's subtle, it's there. Women are incredibly attuned to energy and intention, far more than words. When a man is chasing attention, when he is anxious about whether he is being noticed, that anxiety comes through. It creates tension. It creates neediness. And neediness is repelling, not magnetic. Now, contrast that with a man who has done the inner work, who has stopped seeking external validation. He walks into a room and his presence speaks first. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing his worth internally, from understanding who he is, what he wants, and what he does not need from others. This is not arrogance. It is not superiority. It is calm, grounded self-possession. It is the understanding that his value is inherent, not conditional. Younger women feel this immediately. They are drawn to it because it is rare, it is different, it signals stability, security, and depth, all things that unconsciously create attraction. Younger women are not looking for perfection. They are not drawn to men simply because they have achieved more in life or because they are older. What they are responding to is something much more subtle and profound: the absence of urgency, the absence of need, and the presence of clarity. When a man no longer performs for approval, he shifts the energy in the room. He communicates that he is not seeking anything from them other than connection, and that creates a space of freedom and curiosity. Women feel invited rather than pressured. They feel safe to reveal themselves because they are not being asked to fill a void. And that is magnetic. This is why so many older men who understand this concept find that they attract attention effortlessly. It's not because they are trying harder, it's because they have removed the noise. They have removed insecurity, desperation, and neediness from their interactions. What is left is clarity, and clarity is irresistible. When a man knows himself, he communicates a form of confidence that goes beyond charm or technique. It is visible in his posture, in his tone of voice, in the way he moves through life. Younger women sense this authenticity on a visceral level, and it draws them in without effort. There is also a philosophical layer to this that is often overlooked. Life teaches us that the energy we put into seeking validation externally is wasted energy. When a man focuses on becoming complete internally, on developing his mind, his character, his values, he naturally radiates a form of presence that others cannot manufacture. It is the difference between someone who shouts to be heard and someone whose silence commands attention. Women respond to the latter because it signals mastery over oneself, and mastery is inherently attractive. It is a reflection of inner stability, emotional maturity, and depth, qualities that are often more compelling than youth, wealth, or appearance. Think about it in a practical sense. When you walk into a room and feel calm, centered, and grounded, people feel that too. Your energy affects the environment. Younger women sense that they do not have to perform or be on edge around you. That subtle shift changes everything. Attention becomes natural, curiosity becomes sparked, and connection begins to form effortlessly. This is why presence is so much more powerful than words, gestures, or even physical attraction. It is an energy that operates on a subconscious level. It signals something fundamental: that the man knows his worth, and that he does not need her to validate it. And here is where the real magic happens. Younger women, like everyone else, are drawn to security and stability, but not in the way most men think. It's not about being financially secure or successful on paper. It's about emotional and psychological security. A man who carries himself with quiet confidence, who is present and grounded, creates a psychological anchor. He becomes a point of stability in a world that is often chaotic and performative. Women feel this without having to consciously analyze it. It is instinctual. And once that anchor is established, attraction begins to flow naturally, effortlessly, and almost invisibly. This does not mean you have to be perfect. It does not mean you have to have all the answers or have reached the pinnacle of success. It means you need to stop seeking validation externally and start cultivating your own sense of worth. It means learning to be comfortable in your own skin, to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and to be at peace with who you are. The moment you do that, presence follows. Presence creates curiosity. Curiosity sparks attraction, and attraction flows without effort. So, the takeaway is simple but powerful. Younger women are drawn to older men not because of what they have or what they can give, or even how confident they appear superficially. They are drawn to the energy that comes from self-possession. The quiet, grounded, magnetic presence of a man who knows his worth and no longer seeks external approval. That energy cannot be faked. It must be cultivated internally. And once it is, attraction becomes effortless, natural, and undeniable. So here is the challenge I leave you with: stop trying to impress. Stop chasing validation. Stop performing for approval. Instead, focus on becoming the man who does not need anyone else's validation to feel complete. Build your mind, strengthen your character, understand your value, and carry yourself with calm confidence. The moment you do that, the world notices, curiosity is sparked, and attraction happens effortlessly, and not just with younger women, but with everyone around you. Remember this: presence is the silent language of attraction. When you master yourself, you no longer need to seek attention. Attention finds you. Most people think attraction is about charm, compliments, or attention, but they're missing the most important factor: emotional stability. Younger women, like anyone with a keen sense of perception, are deeply sensitive to emotional energy. They can feel tension, anxiety, or chaos in a man almost instantly, even before he speaks. This is the truth that most men never realize. Women are drawn to emotional balance because it signals safety, depth, and reliability, qualities that go far beyond superficial appearance or social status. Think about it. How often do you see a man try too hard to impress, to say the right thing, or to overcompensate with gestures that ultimately feel heavy or forced? That effort, though well-intentioned, carries a subtle weight. It signals that the man is internally restless, seeking validation, and not fully at ease with himself. Younger women pick up on this immediately. They sense the pressure, the underlying neediness, the lack of inner calm, and instinctively it pushes them away. The mind and body recognize chaos as a warning sign. Attraction is not just physical, it's psychological, and most men overlook that fact entirely. Now, contrast that with a man who has cultivated emotional stability. He has confronted his failures, processed his disappointments, and learned to integrate his pain rather than let it run him. He understands that his worth is not contingent on someone else's approval, and because of that, his presence is calm, grounded, and composed. Younger women feel this immediately. They don't have to analyze it consciously. It resonates on a deeper, almost instinctual level. This is the kind of energy that creates effortless pull. It's subtle, invisible, but incredibly powerful. Emotional stability is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It is not about suppressing feelings or pretending to be perfect. It is about being aware of your emotional landscape and not allowing it to dictate your interactions. When a man walks into a room carrying this kind of calm presence, it transforms the entire dynamic. Women feel secure in his presence. They feel seen, not judged. They feel understood, not evaluated. That is magnetic. That is what draws people in effortlessly. Most men are completely unaware of how their emotional turbulence affects those around them. A nervous glance, a subtle frown, a hesitation in speech. These are all picked up subconsciously. Women feel it as a lack of safety, a kind of unspoken instability. And it doesn't matter how attractive or successful a man appears on the surface, emotional unrest will always undercut it. This is why men who seem to have everything, wealth, status, appearance, can still fail to attract the attention they desire. Their internal state speaks louder than anything external they display. So how does a man cultivate the kind of emotional stability that naturally draws younger women in? First, it requires honesty with oneself. Most men spend their lives avoiding uncomfortable truths, suppressing emotions, or distracting themselves with constant activity. True stability comes from facing your fears, acknowledging your insecurities, and taking responsibility for your emotional state. It means not blaming others for your feelings, not outsourcing your happiness, and not relying on external validation to feel whole. When a man does this work, he becomes anchored, he becomes grounded, he becomes the calm in the storm, and that is an irresistible quality. Second, it requires integration of past experiences. Life leaves marks on all of us: losses, failures, heartbreaks, and betrayals. Most people carry these wounds unconsciously, allowing them to spill into every new interaction. But the men who attract naturally have learned to process and integrate these experiences. They carry their history not as baggage, but as lessons that have shaped them into a more resilient, aware, and composed person. This integration is silent but palpable. Younger women sense it immediately because it signals a man who has depth, a man who is mature, and a man who can handle life without falling apart. Another important element is detachment from outcomes. Emotional stability is strengthened when a man stops being reactive to every situation, every glance, every word. He understands that his sense of self-worth is independent of how others perceive him. When he speaks, when he moves, when he interacts, it is from a place of choice, not desperation. This detachment doesn't mean indifference, it means freedom, and freedom is magnetic. Women feel this energy as effortless, and it pulls them in without a single calculated action. We must also acknowledge that emotional stability requires consistent inner work. It is not something that happens overnight or by chance. Meditation, reflection, self-discipline, and intentionality are essential. A man who works on his internal world does not need external validation. He is not thrown off balance by rejection or criticism. His interactions are not a performance. They are a natural expression of his inner equilibrium. This consistency is deeply attractive. Younger women, in particular, are drawn to it because it contrasts so starkly with the chaos and noise of the world around them. Consider this: when a man is emotionally stable, he also communicates it in his presence. His voice is calm and measured, his body language is relaxed, his energy is centered. These nonverbal cues are picked up subconsciously and create an environment of trust and security. Women feel at ease. They feel invited, not pressured. They feel curiosity rather than obligation. This subtle shift is what makes a man magnetic before he even says a word. Emotional stability doesn't just attract, it creates connection. It opens space for authentic interactions and deeper bonds. Emotional stability also allows a man to respond rather than react. Most people operate on impulse, on emotion, on the momentary surge of feeling, but men who cultivate true stability pause, reflect, and choose their response intentionally. This ability to hold space without being consumed by emotion is rare, and rarity creates value. Women sense this. They sense a man who is in control of himself, who is not controlled by circumstance, who is not needy or reactive. That sense of control, when paired with empathy, draws them in effortlessly. We should also highlight that emotional stability amplifies confidence without arrogance. A man who has mastered his internal world radiates calm assurance. He does not have to boast, perform, or prove himself. That kind of quiet power is noticed immediately because it contrasts sharply with the neediness and chaos so common in interactions today. Younger women, consciously or unconsciously, are drawn to that power because it signals competence, reliability, and depth, all of which are far more compelling than superficial charm. Ultimately, emotional stability is not about impressing women or anyone else. It is about mastering oneself. When a man becomes grounded, anchored, and composed, he naturally exudes presence. That presence is what draws younger women in almost effortlessly. It is subtle, invisible, and incredibly powerful, and it is entirely within a man's control. The moment he decides to stop outsourcing his happiness, to stop being reactive, and to take responsibility for his emotional state, he transforms not only how he experiences life, but how others experience him. So, here is the challenge for anyone listening: reflect on your own emotional state. Are you calm under pressure, or are you chasing validation and approval? Are you anchored in yourself, or are you carried by the reactions of others? The moment you commit to cultivating emotional stability, you step into a power that is magnetic, effortless, and undeniable. Younger women, and people in general, respond to this energy instinctively. They feel it, they are drawn to it, and they cannot resist it. Remember, this emotional stability is the silent language of attraction. When your inner world is calm, your outer world resonates. Master yourself, and the world, effortlessly, is drawn to you. Most men live their lives chasing approval, chasing validation, chasing the fleeting attention of others. They operate as if their worth depends on how they are perceived, on whether someone else notices them, or on whether they measure up to some external standard. And what happens? They create pressure around themselves. They unconsciously broadcast neediness, desperation, and lack. It doesn't matter if they dress well, work out, or appear confident on the surface. That internal hunger seeps through, and it repels rather than attracts. Here's the truth that most men never hear: effortless attraction does not come from trying harder. It comes from being complete in yourself. It is not a skill you can fake or a trick you can learn. It is an internal state, a psychological orientation that changes everything about how you interact with the world. When a man reaches this state, he no longer seeks to be liked. He no longer seeks to impress. And the paradox is that the moment he stops chasing the attention, curiosity, and admiration of others, including younger women, flow naturally toward him. This is the essence of what I mean by attraction through choice, not need. A man who operates from internal completeness interacts with the world as a participant, not as a supplicant. His energy is different. It is calm, grounded, and deliberate. It is not frantic, reactive, or desperate. And this energy communicates something that is far more powerful than words, gestures, or even physical appearance. It communicates self-possession. It signals that he does not need anyone else to complete him. Younger women, whether consciously or unconsciously, sense this immediately. They feel it in the way he moves, in the way he speaks, in the subtle nuances of his presence. There is no pressure, there is no urgency, there is no hidden agenda, and that freedom from neediness, freedom from desperation, is magnetic. It draws them in effortlessly because it allows them to relax, to be themselves, and to explore a connection without carrying the weight of filling someone else's emptiness. Most men mistake attraction for accumulation. They think they need to collect attention, compliments, or approval to be attractive. They mistake trying hard for being magnetic. But the men who truly draw others in do the opposite. They subtract need, they subtract urgency, they subtract insecurity. What remains is clarity, composure, and an unmistakable presence that signals strength and stability. It is this absence of need that creates space for curiosity, for interest, and ultimately, for genuine connection. Psychologically, this works on a deep level. Human beings are wired to respond to energy, not words. Women, in particular, are finely attuned to the emotional and energetic states of those around them. A man who is desperate for validation communicates imbalance and scarcity. A man who is internally complete communicates abundance, security, and stability. And the human mind is drawn to abundance, not scarcity. This is why the presence of a man who is self-possessed feels almost irresistible. It taps into a primal recognition of security, reliability, and maturity. It is important to clarify what internal completeness is not. It is not arrogance, superiority, or emotional detachment. It is not pretending that you have no vulnerabilities. It is not about creating distance or manipulating others. Internal completeness is the quiet understanding that your worth does not depend on anyone else. It is the recognition that you are already enough, and that any connection with others is an addition to your life, not a necessity for your survival or validation. Men who cultivate this state develop a kind of effortless charisma that is not performative but authentic. They are grounded enough to listen without needing to interject. They are confident enough to speak without needing to dominate. They are self-sufficient enough to engage without expecting anything in return. And this creates an energy that is profoundly attractive. Younger women, in particular, are drawn to this energy because it contrasts sharply with the constant pressure and neediness they encounter in most interactions. Think about the practical implications of this. When a man stops seeking approval, he no longer feels compelled to say the right things, to act in ways that are calculated, or to perform for attention. Instead, he interacts from a place of genuine curiosity, interest, and authenticity. The result is effortless connection, Women feel it immediately because it signals that they are interacting with someone who is not trying to take from them, but someone who can engage fully while remaining whole. This creates an environment of psychological safety, which is incredibly attractive. Internal completeness also changes the way a man carries himself. His body language is relaxed, his energy is calm, and his presence is unhurried. He does not rush interactions or seek validation through external measures. His energy is steady, and women sense that steadiness as stability and strength. This is why younger women often describe certain older men as different or magnetic, without being able to articulate why. It is not about what they say or do, it is about the energy they carry, the internal completeness they embody, and the freedom they radiate. Another critical aspect of internal completeness is detachment from outcomes. Most men are reactive. They measure every interaction based on whether it produces a desired result. They seek signs of approval, affection, or interest. Men who attract effortlessly do not operate this way. They approach interactions with presence, with engagement, and with interest, but without attachment to the result. This detachment is not indifference, it is strength. It communicates that the man is rooted, stable, and complete, which makes every interaction feel natural and pressure-free. The beauty of this state is that it is contagious. People are drawn to completeness because it resonates with something inside them that longs for stability, security, and authenticity. When a man is internally complete, he naturally uplifts the energy around him. He creates a space where others feel safe to show up fully. This is why younger women are drawn to men who embody this quality. They are not being asked to fill a void, they are not being pressured to provide validation, and they are free to be themselves. Freedom, in this context, is the ultimate magnetism. It is also worth noting that cultivating internal completeness is not a one-time achievement. It requires consistent self-awareness, reflection, and personal growth. Men who develop this quality invest in themselves, not to impress others, but to become whole. They confront their fears, integrate their experiences, and align their actions with their values. Over time, this creates a kind of effortless elegance in the way they move through life, an energy that draws people toward them naturally and without effort. Ultimately, internal completeness transforms the way a man experiences relationships, attention, and attraction. He no longer operates from scarcity or need. He no longer seeks to be chosen to feel worthy. Instead, he engages from abundance, confidence, and authenticity. Younger women, like everyone else, sense this immediately. They are drawn to it instinctively because it communicates maturity, security, and depth, qualities that cannot be fabricated and cannot be achieved through superficial means. So here is the challenge for anyone listening. Stop trying to impress, stop trying to perform, and stop trying to be liked. Begin the work of becoming complete within yourself. Invest in your mind, your emotional intelligence, your values, and your character. The moment you achieve internal completeness, everything shifts. The energy you carry changes, the way you interact with the world changes, and the attention, curiosity, and admiration of others, especially younger women, will flow naturally and effortlessly toward you. Remember this: effortless attraction is not earned through trying, it is radiated through completeness. When you stop seeking, you start drawing. When you master yourself, the world effortlessly is drawn to you. Let's take a moment to consider something that most men completely overlook. Freedom and self-possession are among the most magnetic qualities a man can have. Most people assume attraction is about showing power, displaying charm, or proving value. Those things matter only superficially. What truly draws others, especially younger women, is the energy of a man who is fully rooted in himself. He carries no unnecessary burden, no invisible hunger for approval, and no desperation to be liked. He is whole, complete, and self-possessed. That energy is felt instantly, even before a single word is exchanged. Freedom in this context is not just about independence or autonomy. It is about detachment from outcome, control, and external validation. Most men live their lives tethered to reactions, how they are perceived, how others respond to them, and whether they succeed in gaining attention or approval. This constant seeking creates tension, subtle anxiety, and pressure, all of which are sensed immediately. Women, particularly younger women, are extraordinarily perceptive. They can feel whether a man is internally balanced or if he is trying to extract validation from the interaction. And that feeling, whether conscious or unconscious, is a powerful driver of attraction or repulsion. Now, contrast that with a man who has mastered the art of self-possession. He does not seek approval. He does not operate from fear of rejection. He does not need external validation to feel worthy. Every interaction he has, every word he speaks, and every action he takes comes from a place of choice rather than necessity. This is the kind of freedom that radiates quietly but powerfully. It communicates stability, security, and an unshakable inner authority. Younger women sense it immediately, often before they even realize what draws them to him. Self-possession also manifests as emotional containment. A man who has developed this quality has the ability to hold his emotions, thoughts, and presence without being overwhelmed or reactive. He can engage fully without consuming the energy of those around him. He can listen attentively without inserting himself unnecessarily. He can speak with clarity without dominating the conversation. And he does all of this without performance or pretense. This creates a profound sense of comfort and safety for those around him, which is inherently attractive. Most men misunderstand freedom. They equate it with detachment, coldness, or lack of care. But true freedom is the ability to be fully engaged while remaining anchored in oneself. It is the paradoxical combination of presence and non-attachment. A man who embodies this paradox communicates something rare. He is interested without being desperate, caring without being needy, confident without being arrogant. That balance is magnetic because it creates space for genuine connection rather than pressure. Women feel this energy and respond to it instinctively. Philosophically, self-possession reflects mastery over one's inner world. Life is unpredictable, external circumstances are uncontrollable, and people are unreliable. The man who develops freedom and self-possession understands this deeply. He does not rely on others for happiness, approval, or stability. Instead, he cultivates these qualities internally. This inner work radiates outward, shaping how he is perceived, how he moves, and how he interacts. Younger women are drawn to this energy because it signals resilience, maturity, and authenticity. Qualities that are far more compelling than superficial charm or temporary gestures of attention. Freedom and self-possession also create curiosity. When a man does not need to perform or prove himself, when he is not attached to outcomes, his presence generates intrigue. Women naturally want to understand him, to explore the layers of his character, and to experience the energy he radiates. It is a subtle but profound form of attraction, one that cannot be manufactured through manipulation or calculated behavior. It is a byproduct of a man who has invested in himself, who has done the hard work of mastering his inner world, and who operates from a place of genuine completeness. Consider how self-possession changes the dynamics of interaction. A man who is anchored in himself does not overcompensate with words, gestures, or attention. He does not try to be liked or accepted. Instead, he moves through the world with a calm certainty. This certainty is experienced as stability, and stability is inherently attractive. Women feel they can relax, they can be themselves, and they can engage freely because the man does not demand anything from them beyond the interaction itself. This creates a space where attraction flows naturally, effortlessly, and invisibly. Another essential aspect of self-possession is boundary setting. A man who is internally complete knows what he will accept, what he will not, and what he values. He enforces these boundaries without rigidity or aggression. He does not compromise his standards to please others. This quality is magnetic because it communicates integrity and respect, both for himself and for those around him. Younger women are drawn to men who carry themselves with this kind of clarity because it signals that they are interacting with someone who is grounded, reliable, and authentic. Self-possession also amplifies the effects of the other qualities we have discussed: presence, emotional stability, and internal completeness. When a man is free and anchored, his presence feels even more magnetic. His emotional stability becomes palpable and reassuring. His internal completeness radiates effortlessly because it is supported by an unshakable foundation of self-possession. The result is a synergy of qualities that creates effortless attraction, a pull that cannot be forced, faked, or manufactured. It is also worth noting that freedom and self-possession require continuous self-awareness and growth. They are not static states achieved overnight. They are cultivated through reflection, discipline, and consistent inner work. A man who invests in his mind, emotional intelligence, and values gradually develops the kind of energy that radiates self-possession. This energy is subtle yet profound. It communicates depth without arrogance, presence without demand, and confidence without neediness. Younger women sense this energy instinctively, and it draws them in before any conversation even begins. Practicality matters too. Freedom and self-possession affect everyday interactions. A man who embodies these qualities does not overreact to minor slights, does not seek constant validation, and does not chase attention. Instead, he engages fully, speaks with clarity, and moves through life anchored in his values and his internal compass. This approach transforms how he is perceived. Younger women sense that he is not seeking anything from them, yet he is fully present. That combination is rare and magnetic because it offers both stability and intrigue, presence and freedom. Ultimately, the lesson here is clear. Freedom and self-possession are not just attractive, they are transformative. They change how a man experiences life, how he interacts with others, and how others perceive him. Younger women, in particular, are drawn to men who embody this energy because it offers stability, authenticity, and the freedom to connect without pressure. This is the kind of magnetism that cannot be faked, purchased, or imitated. It is cultivated from within. So here is the takeaway: stop seeking validation externally. Stop performing for approval. Stop trying to control outcomes. Instead, focus on cultivating freedom and self-possession. Build your internal world, understand your worth, hold space for your emotions, and engage with life from a place of rootedness. The moment you do this, your presence changes, your energy changes, and the world, including younger women, is drawn to you effortlessly. Remember, this freedom and self-possession are the ultimate form of attraction. When you are anchored in yourself, when you radiate presence without need, the world cannot help but notice. Master yourself, and everything else follows.